Even the big, powerful federal government of Canada can't continue to spend money without borrowing. It just can't print the money up. It has to borrow, and when you borrow, you have to pay interest. Jay Goldberg is with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He joins me right now because I want to know how much money we pay in interest, because with this new budget, big deficits, becomes a big debt. They have to borrow to get that, and they have to pay interest, correct?
So Finance Minister Freeland and Prime Minister Trudeau have suggested that interest rates are really low right now, so it's a great time to borrow money. But the reality
They've been low for 5 years.
Even if we continue with the interest rates that we have right now, by 2026, Canada will be spending $39 billion a year on debt interest, and that's just the federal government. That's twice our national defense budget, so that's really, really substantial.
And that's on the figures we have now. And we know from governments, those figures are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's going to be more we have to pay on debt. So that's every man, woman, and child in Canada has a certain amount of money that's going to go and pay for this wild spending.
Yeah, and it's practically doubled in the last couple of years. The Trudeau government inherited public debt around just over $600 billion. By the end of this year, it's going to be at $1.2 trillion. So that's doubling the debt right there in a few years.
Okay, so what does that do to the economy? What does that do to people borrowing to buy a house or to buy a car or just looking to create jobs?
Well, what could ultimately happen is you'll start to see interest rates rise, and that's going to hurt both the government and Canadians when they're trying to borrow to get mortgages for their homes, for example. So interest rates are going to go up. They're going to go up eventually on individuals, but it's also going to go up on governments. And what that's going to mean is that our finances are pretty quickly going to get out of control, and we're going to end up probably seeing something like we saw in the 1990s, where the federal government had to take really dramatic action, including cuts, to make up for the decades of bad decisions.
Now, I want you to play psychologist for a second and tell me why it's so cyclical. I mean, it just seems that we go through these periods where governments spend and people don't care, and then when they're getting hammered, they say, okay, well, we have to come back and really hammer it down. And then later on, like we're in right now, you have a, quote, progressive government, I won't call it a liberal government, and they say, everybody said, fine, keep spending. What goes on?
Well, it seems that we learn our lessons when we have to take the really tough medicine. That lasts for a little while, and then we start to forget it. And so it seems to be a pattern, you're right, of once every 20 years, we're having a major debt problem in this country, and then after that, we kind of forget about it and forget about what we have to do and how hard it is to get out of those problems once we're in them.
Absolutely. It's a big hangover after the big party.
A very big hangover.
Oh, God, it's going to be terrible. Jay, thank you very, very much. And that's 3 minutes, not in debt. Our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, recently stood up in the House of Commons and prefaced his remarks by saying, and we will only work from the facts, quote, unquote, and then proceeded to lie by saying Britain was in a horrible, horrible third wave, trying to show, in fact, that Canada was not the worst in the world. Britain, though, had vaccines. Canada did not. And this was not reported in the mainstream Canadian media, the media paid for by Justin Trudeau. All of which, I'm telling you, is that it's important to have this 3-minute interview. Please subscribe, ask your friends to subscribe, and press that PayPal thing so we can continue on to bring you the news you otherwise might not know.